Guys, it is time to take it back to where it all began with the Mythical Tier List.
Let's go.
Guys, it is time for the long-awaited part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, go and check it out. It was the first video I ever did on the channel. We've got the list right here with Mikage, Carnage, Arbice, and Alas sitting very prettily at the top. And guys, let's crack into the next 3. We're going to try to keep it shorter this time so that way I'm not boring y'all to death.
Stop the cap.
So we're only doing 3. Starting off with the Skinwalker Mezimel. Mezimel is a very powerful arena nuker and far more useful than her faction counterpart, Gallius, the only couldn't care less mythical. Hold up, click the link in the description right now to get a free Uugo as well as 2 more free epic champions as you level up. Here are the steps to get yours. Step 1, log out of Plarium Play on PC and uninstall. Step 2, click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Step 3, launch raid and complete the tutorial. Step 4, go to your inbox and claim your first champ. This is an amazing account start to raid, so click the link and start now. Mezimel Luperfang, here she is. Here's the stats. Great base speed for a nuker. And yes, she's got an A1 decreased defense, single target. Her first form is all single target and her second form is all AoE. It's very strong. She's got the A2, attacks one enemy 2 times, will ignore 15% of the target's defense, as well as stone skin, strengthen, ally protection, and shield. Also places block revive if the target is killed. Books down to a 3-turn cooldown. And then the A3 is a self-buffing, increase attack, increase crit rate, and increase crit damage for 3 turns with an extra turn. Very powerful move. Passive heals this champion by 20% of the damage inflicted. Places revive on death buff on this champion for 2 turns every time they kill an enemy. So not only does she do a crap ton of damage, but because of that, she is going to be healing herself and keeping herself from dying at the same time. If she flips on over to the second form, she stays attack based, keeps great stats, and on the A1, she attacks all enemies. This attack will not trigger counterattacks, which is great for fighting people like Carnage or Valkyries. Places an extra hit on enemies under True Fear debuffs. On the A2, attacks all enemies 2 times, places True Fear for 2 turns. This attack will not trigger counterattacks and will also ignore unkillable and block damage. So pretty much everything that she wasn't ignoring on her first form, she can ignore on her second, making her a great counter for like Helicath or Alas for that matter. On the passive, increases this champion's attack and crit damage by 20% while in their alternate form, just giving her a massive boost to damage. In both forms, she's got increased crit in all battles by 27%. We do not like crit rate auras, but she is powerful nonetheless. For that reason, we are giving Miss Luperfang a Flashy. Now, I'm putting her at the bottom of Flashy because outside of being a good nuker, that's pretty much all she is. But she is good at that, especially after the buff. I believe she was the second mythical in the game to get a buff, and it was a very good one. Basically, they just upped her damage, similar to how they did Allele recently. Up next on the list, we are going to the Sylvan Watchers, where we will be staying for the remainder of the video. And we will be talking about another arena-focused mythical Nice. Not nice, but nice. Nice the Shadow Thief. Very good arena nuker. He is a menace to society. Very strong. Attack-based. Great base attack, great base speed. On the A1, he's got attacks one enemy, will ignore shield, unkillable, and block damage. Damage based on HP and attack, which both are really good, especially for being attack on this form. On the A2, he's got attacks all enemies. This attack will, again, not trigger counterattacks and ignores shields. So, again, very good for countering champions like Valkyrie. Also steals 20% of the turn meter from each enemy. This effect cannot be resisted by enemies with more than 50% turn meter. Excellent Armand's-esque move. If there's 4, he's getting 80% turn meter, and again, it cannot be resisted if they're fast. On the A3, he attacks one enemy, deals double damage to bosses, so he can be used outside of PvP. Destroys the target's max HP and decreases the target's attack, defense, speed, resistance, and accuracy by 10% when this champion hits them with this skill for the first time. This effect does not work against bosses. Also increases this champion's max HP, attack, defense, speed, resistance, and accuracy by 10% on each time this champion decreases enemy stats with this skill. Finally, places a block revive if the target is killed by this skill. Fantastic. fantastic. Passive deals 5% more damage for each 10% HP the target has lost. Also prevents this champion's death and keeps them alive on 1 HP when hit with a fatal hit, then transforms them into their alternate form. This is on a 4-turn cooldown. Now this is a finicky passive. I have seen it work really well, or I have seen him transform and then die immediately. I don't know how that works. If you do, let me know in the comments. I'm really curious because I'll use the same skill and have different results. I don't understand it. On his second form is where it gets crazy. On A1, he attacks one enemy 2 times, heals this champion by 7.5% of their max HP with each hit. If their health is full, each hit fills this champion's turn meter by 15% instead. So if you're attacking with full HP on the A1, you're getting a 30% turn meter fill. Fantastic. He is only HP based in this form, so it is wise to build him with a lot of HP overall, because not only does he do a ton of damage on this form, but the base HP skyrockets. On the A2, attacks all enemies, places provoke for 1 turn if this champion has more than 50% HP. This cannot be resisted if this champion has more than 75% HP. If this champion has 50% HP or less, places a stun debuff for 1 turn instead that cannot be resisted. So he's crowd controlling everyone either way. Where his HP is at depends on whether or not it is a provoke or stun. On the A3, fully cleanses this champion that places a number of continuous heal buffs on this champion equal to the amount of debuffs removed by this skill. Also places a counterattack buff and block damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. These buffs are protected. This is a fantastic skill that is great for protecting him while dealing a lot of damage. On the passive, increases this champion's max HP, defense, speed, resistance, and accuracy by 15% for every dead enemy and ally, including bosses and their minions in battle. Stacks up to 100%. Also revives a random ally with 50% HP and turn meter each time this champion kills an enemy. This passive will not work in Hydra, which sucks because that would make him super versatile, but it does work pretty much everywhere else. Based on the reading here, it even works in spiders on the spiderlings. So yeah, fantastic. Increase HP in all battles by 35%, so he's keeping everybody very tanky, which we love. He is a very powerful mythical, and one that I think anyone that has is lucky to have. And that is why we are giving Nice the Shadow Thief a very well-deserved face. Now, I'm going to put him at the bottom just because I don't think he's in the same class as these other mythicals, but I think he is very respectable and very powerful. For the last one in this video, we are going to go back to the Sylvan Watchers, Nell Blackteeth. When I first saw this mythical, I was super impressed, and then I went up against her and I was even more impressed. The base stats are great, especially for a support champion. 112 on the base speed, better than Arbiter, I'm pretty sure. On the A1, she attacks 1 enemy, steals 10% of the target's turn meter, steals an additional 5% for each debuff on the enemy. So that means she can steal up to 60% turn meter on the A1. Also has a 75% chance of placing True Fear for 1 turn. On the A2, steals all buffs from all enemies, decreases each target's turn meter by 10%, and an additional 5% for each debuff on them. Also instantly activates all poisons on all enemies, then places a sleep debuff for 1 turn on all enemies without poisons. On the A3, attacks all enemies, places decreased defense and weaken for 2 turns, fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%. This is a huge skill. I would kill to have the mythical just for this skill alone. Decreased defense and weaken with a turn meter fill is just unheard of. And then finally on the passive, whenever an enemy receives a buff, is healed, or has their turn meter increased. So basically if they do anything other than just use a skill, they will receive a poison debuff for 2 turns that will ignore block debuffs. Now that does not mean that it cannot be blocked. So if there's some kind of like a passive or something that blocks poisons, it can still be blocked. It just can't be stopped by block debuffs. Increases this champion's turn meter by 5% for each poison placed by this skill. She is generating a crap ton of turn meter. She is controlling turn meter like crazy, and she's placing a lot of debuffs. Fantastic champion. On the alternate form, she looks sick, and she does a lot of damage. She's got a lot better base attack, still keeping that great base speed, and on the A1, attacks 1 enemy 4 times. Each hit will ignore 30% of the target's defense. Each hit also decreases the target's max HP by 20% of the damage inflicted. If the target is not a boss, also places a shield buff on this champion equal to 25% of the target's max HP. Fantastic skill. 4-time hitter means she is a Fire Knight beast. On the A2, attacks one enemy 2 times, deals 100% more damage to enemies under crowd control, minus sheep. If the target is killed, it instantly activates her A3 ability, which attacks all enemies and places a True Fear debuff for 2 turns, which cannot be resisted or blocked by enemies with 50% or less HP. Holy cow, that's a lot of damage. And then on this passive, whenever this champion kills an enemy using an active skill, grants them an extra turn. This is effectively on a 1-turn cooldown because of the extra turn. Each debuff placed by this champion in their either form increases this champion's HP, attack, and defense by 2%, stacking up to 50, and speed up to 50 in their alternate form. This champion is capable of doing so much, getting so many stats, doing so much damage. It is not even funny. I would kill to have this mythical. She is so good in PvP and PvE. I think she is highly underrated, and I think that's because not very many have her because she's still really new. And for that reason, I'm going to give Nell Blackteeth, in my opinion, a very well-deserved flashy. I don't think she's quite as good as Geralt because I think Geralt is more versatile. However, I think she is incredibly powerful, but not nearly as powerful as, say, a Nice, because Nice will just eat your lunch. But Nell is very powerful. She's very similar to the Faction Unity champion Volcanos. So yeah, I think she is very well deserving of that high flashy ranking. Guys, that's going to be the 3 champions for this video. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you agree with my rankings? If not, where would you put them? If you have any of them, how do they feel when you're actually playing with them? I love hearing from you guys in the comments. Can't wait for the next episode. With that, I've been Corrodor. Stay tanky.